Today we're going to take a look at subtracting fractions and mixed numbers. Be sure that you have something to write on so that you can work through the examples with, and either take notes on the video or screen capture and save to Notability so you can reference these for later as needed. Before we work through any examples, let's take a look at the steps for subtracting fractions and mixed numbers. Do the steps look familiar? They should, because those steps are the same ones we use when we're adding fractions and mixed numbers. Our first step is still to turn both numbers into improper fractions if needed. So again, if there's a mixed number or a whole number, make sure to turn them into fractions first. Then we'll be finding our common denominators using the giant one or a similar method. And the new step here that's really helpful is rewriting the subtraction problem as an addition problem by adding the opposite. And you guys learned how to do this back in Unit 1. You'll find it super helpful when you're subtracting fractions to rewrite them as addition problems. And then step 4 is just like it was before. We're going to add the numerators and denominators stay the same. And then we simplify whenever we can. And again, it's okay to leave our answers as improper fractions as long as they were reduced. So let's try a few. Our first problem is 2 1/6 minus 1 3/4. So let's start by turning both numbers into improper fractions first. Well, 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Denominator stays the same, minus... Now I've got 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3, we have 7/4. So our new subtraction problem is 13/6 minus 7/4. Now let's look for what we could use for our common denominator. Our least common multiple of 6 and 4 is going to be 12. So to get from 6 to 12, I have to multiply by 2. Then I'll do the same thing on the top. There's my giant 1 at work. And to get 4 to 12, I need to multiply by 3, so I'll do the same thing to my top. And I'm going to just carry this below here, my new fraction with common denominators. 13 times 2 is 26. My denominator is now 12ths, minus 7 times 3 is 21 with the denominator of 12. So we found common denominators using our giant 1. And now let's rewrite it as adding the opposite. So 26/12 minus 21/12 becomes 26/12 plus negative 21/12. And now we just add our numerators. Well, 26 plus negative 21 is 5. And our denominators stay the same. So we're done over here. And finally, simplify if possible. We can't simplify this one because there's no common factors in 5 and 12. So there's our final answer. All right, ready for another one? This time we have a negative number involved in our subtraction problem, but our steps stay the same. First things first, turn both numbers into improper fractions. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So we have 9/4, and I'm going to bring down my negative, minus 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. So now we have negative 9/4 minus 11/3. Step 2, find common denominators. Okay, well, I know 4 and 3 both go into 12. So to turn 4 into 12s, I need to multiply by 3. And if I do it to the bottom, I better do it to the top. And to get 3 into 12, I need to multiply by 4. So there's our giant 1 at work in this problem. And when I rewrite my fractions below, I have negative 27/12 minus 44/12. We've got our common denominators. Step 3, rewrite it as an addition problem by adding the opposite. So negative 27/12 stays the same. Instead of doing minus 44/12, we're going to add negative 44/12. And now we're going to just add our numerators and simplify. So I have negative 27 plus negative 44. So how many total negatives do I have here? That is, let's see, you can do it off to the side, or you can use your calculator. We have 71, so negative 71 twelfths. And I know that there's no common factors in 71 or 12, so my answer is reduced, and I am good to move on to the next one. Sometimes you'll see subtraction problems where you're working with a mixed number and a whole number. So let's see what happens when we run into those. First things first, again, always turn them into improper fractions first. So 1 1/6 becomes 7/6 minus, now how do I turn a whole number into a fraction? Well, any number written over 1 or divided by 1 is itself. So instead of 3, I'm going to write it as 3 over 1. Here's my new subtraction problem. 7/6 minus 3 first. Okay, now step 2, find our common denominators. Well, I know that 1 and 6 both go into 6, so this first one can just stay the same. But let's see, we need to multiply 1 by 6 to turn it into sixths. So we need to do the same to our top as well. So our new subtraction problem with common denominators is 7/6, which was just what it was before, minus 18/6. And now that we've got our fractions with common denominators, we can go ahead and rewrite this subtraction problem as an addition problem by adding the opposite. So we turned minus 18/6 into plus negative 18/6. And now our new problem is 7/6 plus negative 18/6. 7 plus negative 18 is negative 11, and the denominator stays the same. So we're left with negative 11/6 because that fraction can't be simplified at all. Hang in there, there's only one more. Let's take a look at our last example. All right, we have negative 2 3/4 minus negative 1 1/5. First things first, always turn both numbers into improper fractions. So in this case, we have 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11. So we have 11/4, and bring down my negative, minus, and now I have 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6/5, and I need to also bring down this negative. I'm going to keep my parentheses there. So I have negative 11/4 minus negative 6/5. All right, now I need to find our common denominators. 4 and 5 both go into 20. So let's see what we need to do to each to get there. So 4 times 5 is 20. So I have to do the same thing to the top. So 11 times 5. And then 5 times 4 is 20. So I need to do the same thing to the top of that fraction, times 4. And then what we're left with is, and now be careful with all your negatives so you don't forget to bring anything down here. That sometimes happens. We have negative 55/20 minus negative, and 6 times 4 is 24/20. All right, we've got our common denominators, and now we can go ahead and rewrite this as our addition problem. So the minus negative 24/20 becomes plus the opposite. So you're adding the opposite, and you end up with, I'm just going to rewrite it so it looks a little nicer here, negative 55/20 plus 24/20. Now we've got our common denominators, we rewrote it as an addition problem, and now I can just go ahead and add our numerators. So I have negative 55 plus 24. Well, I'm just going to, over here, just do 55 minus 24 to find the difference between them. And then I know that my answer has to be negative, because I have negative 55 and I'm adding 24 on. I'm still going to have negatives here. So we'll have negative 31/20. And again, there's no common factors in 31 or 20, so I can't simplify it anymore, and that is my final answer. If you have questions on this, please make sure to ask a classmate, ask your teacher, watch the video again, or seek out additional help in the extra resources folder. And have fun practicing. Thanks for watching.